Welcome to the Let's Talk Fabulous show. I am your host this week, Kim O'Neill, and we are talking this week about overcoming heartbreak. And I have some, dual emotions about this. There's the heaviness of heartbreak and the I'm coming out on top, right? I'm coming back stronger. And so I just want to say I am with you if you were feeling anywhere in the range of those emotions. And we are here to support you on that journey. I'm excited for today's conversation. We're going to take a quick moment to bring up today's guests and hear from our digital sidekick, Renee, and then we'll get into today's conversation. Welcome, everybody. It's good to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're gonna have a very meaningful conversation, and I want to say hello to our live audience today. Let us know down in the comments, where are you joining us from today, and have you ever experienced heartbreak? My goodness, I feel like everyone can relate to that, but you let us know. Let's do we're going to take a quick moment actually to hear from our digital sidekick, Renee. She's always with us, supporting us as we start this journey, and then we're going to come right back and get to meet our guests.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Reich, founder of Finding Your Voice Network and Magazine, and a women's life and leadership coach. Today's guest host is Kim O'Neill. And as we approach Valentine's Day, she'll be joined by some expert panelists speaking about overcoming heartbreak. And what do you do when you're feeling alone and lonely and it's this big holiday of love? Well, one tip is to begin to love yourself. These expert panelists will be giving you some additional tips and tools on just how to do that and ways to navigate those times when you're feeling a little lost and lonely, not just on Valentine's Day, but you can use throughout the year. So please grab your pens and papers, as I always suggest, and get ready to enjoy a very fabulous show. Have a wonderful day or evening or afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from and whenever you are joining, and enjoy the show. Take care, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you for that, Renee. Absolutely. I think a very well-timed conversation, because at the time that we are recording this live, Valentine's Day is coming up, which can be challenging for people who are currently in the midst of overcoming heartbreak. So let's go around and quickly get to know who our panelists are today. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where are you located in the world. And I'm going to start with, good, I got it right. I'm going to start with Nasrin, and then we'll go down to Gary and Rob.
Thank you, Kim. This is Nasrin Barbic. I'm an empowerment life coach and mentor and founder of Pathway to Lasting Joy. And I am happy to be here among you.
Thank you, Nasrin. And I did I miss it? Did you say where you're located in the world?
Oh, I live currently in Northern Virginia, very close to Washington, D.C.
Okay, awesome. Complete other coast. I love it. And Gary, tell us about you and where you are.
I'm a constellation healing facilitator. We deal with the ancestral ghosts, and a lot of grief shows up systemically in family generations, as well as our own present. I relocated from LA to Prescott, Arizona, but I went back to LA and the workshops are taking off again.
I love that. And I have it on my radar. Definitely want to still try and make it to one of those when you come back. So
great.
Awesome. Oh, Rob, it is so good to have you here. Rob, tell us who you are, what you do, and where are you located?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, and I hope to be of service to everybody that is listening to the stream now. My name is Rob Based. I am hailing from Vancouver, Canada. I was born and raised in Toronto. I'm a dating and relationship coach. I'm an author first. I create content. I make videos, and I do one-to-one personal coaching because I know how relationship stuff can get, and none of that stuff deserves to be broadcasted. So, just understand that all your secrets are safe with me. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And Rob, I think you said you're hailing from Canada, but I heard healing from Canada.
Hailing from Vancouver, Canada, but also healing from Vancouver.
I love that. Thank you for owning that and honoring it. I love it. Okay. And we have one more panelist who she is not here with us at the moment, but we are hoping she is able to join us at some point. So we're going to just give you a heads up on that. We may have one more joining us today. Let's take a quick look at the comments. You guys are already so wonderful saying hello. Hello to Lisa and Helene and of course Tamara. And I know we have Barbara with us today. Oh, so wonderful. Okay. So healing from heartbreak, overcoming heartbreak. I want to just first start. There's so many things we could share here. And, you know, we never get it all done, right? But always the right things come through. So I want to just first open it up with what's the first thing that comes to mind for each of you when you think about overcoming heartbreak?
I just want to start by saying that heartbreak is a human experience and we all go through it. I really don't know anybody who hasn't experienced. And it's part of our journey, but also is a great catalyst for our self-discovery and growth.
Absolutely. Love that. Gary.
Well, you know, I have a meme that's kind of a joke, but it's actually serious. We all come from a long line of dead people. If you look at our ancestors, so part of our survival skills are being able to handle grief of our grandmother. We might be little kids as a grandmother. And I look at the measure of grief or heartbreak as shows the amount of love we had for that person. Who disappeared from our life. Imagine your 5-year-old, your grandmother, where'd grandma go? I'll never see her again. It's hard to understand. So, and then as we get older, I'm a baby boomer, so parents and grandparents, and we have to adjust with that. And it helps us grow. And different families have different reactions. Some people have seen crazy stuff happen at funerals. All the dirt comes out. Other people are just throwing themselves on the casket. Why? I mean, you know, it can be pretty comical, and it also can be tragic when it's an accident. And my partner dropped dead 7 years ago this year, just massive heart attack, boom, instantly. Oh, wow. So I've seen people disintegrate into death, but I'd much rather go faster than have a long, drawn out, you know, multi-year downward spiral. So it's all about love, really. How much we love someone is how much we grieve.
Well, thank you. That was, you shared so much there. So grief is really coming up. I definitely want us to come back to that. But I also want to say, as we move through today's conversation, I know I've already been chuckling a bit, and I think Gary was a little, you know, if you see us chuckling, I want to just affirm for anybody right now who's in their feels, no one's making light of the emotions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just to be clear on that, right? And humor and being able to laugh at situations and ourselves also can be very healing and releasing. So just want to bring that into the conversation for anyone who's thinking that, you know, there's no place for it. Oh, it's the human experience that we all can relate to. So, okay. Rob, what about you? What are some first thoughts that come to mind when you think about overcoming heartbreak?
Well, I just wanted to pick up what you were saying there is like, yeah, there's a lot of levels to heartbreak. And I think humor is, you know, definitely one of the higher ranking levels that you can get to when, you know, you're going through something like that. So it just shows the level of maturity that somebody has gone through and the work that they have done, you know, to go through, you know, to overcome, let's say. But I think heartbreak in a nutshell is objective and it is subjective. A lot of people have you know, their own versions of heartbreak, but there is an objective reality to heartbreak. I think when you study the neuroscience of heartbreak, you start to see there's chemicals and, you know, all of this wiring that we have in our brain. Okay. And once we kind of like wrap our heads around that, then it's better to, you know, we make better decisions. We make better, you know, we do better things with our life because we're aware of certain things now. And I guess when people get lost in the subjectivity, they don't really understand there is an objective way out. And, you know, that's kind of like why I situate myself in this place, because I know the world needs healing and, you know, hurt people. So if we don't fix what is going on inside of us, then, you know, we're just going to bleed all over the people that didn't cut us. So.
Yeah. And the bigger thing, I think Kim's having trouble with her signal. I'll just say, It's the unexpected that really breaks people's hearts, because sometimes you don't expect it and you're thrown into it. But when it's other people, friends or people, having compassion, the way they suffer is going to be the way they suffer, and just allow them. There's no right way to do it. When my partner died suddenly, and 20-year relationship, everyone said, can't do this, can't do that. I said, I'm going to do what I'm drawn to feel. So a lot of people try to give you advice on how they would do it, but that's not you. You have to find your own way, follow your own heart, because you're the one who's been hurt. All the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of everyone else doesn't actually support you. They're trying to take you away from your own path. So I would also tell people, stick to your guns, because it's just like life is a growth process. Dealing with death is a growth process, and you have to go one foot in front of the other, especially if tragedy happens, or unexpected deaths are more shocking than someone who's been disintegrating with Alzheimer for a decade or cancer for 5 or 8 years. It still hurts to see someone suffer that much, but at the same time, there can be relief with their passing when it's a long drawn out issue, as opposed to the shock of a sudden death or an accident or a murder. I'm kind of seeing it. We see it on the news every day, and it's quite shocking.
Yeah, that's a fascinating thing, Gary, because one of the things that I kind of talk about a lot when it comes to understanding the neuroscience behind heartbreak is that the reason why it hurts so much is not because our heart is not able to handle it. Our heart is able to handle stressful situations. It's just that when it becomes so suddenly, it's like, okay, so like when you go into the gym, your heart starts racing, your mind is getting ready, your body's getting ready to go put yourself through a strenuous workout. So all these chemicals are pumping in your heart, your airways are getting thinner and whatnot, and you are ready for this workout. But what happens is when something drastic like a heartbreak, somebody dies, or someone breaks up with you, throws you in the street, you have no ability to even prepare for what's going on. And because that, your body goes into such shock, and it feels like a heartbreak. It feels like, like your whole like world is kind of crushing down on you, right? And you don't know how to kind of comprehend all the feelings and the thoughts and so on and so forth. So I think it's just a great point to realize that our hearts are capable. It's just that we have to give ourselves some grief and some leeway when it does come suddenly, because if it does affect you in those kinds of ways, then there's helpful tools to kind of regulate those things. So yeah, I think that's just a fantastic point.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why self-compassion is really the key to go through that pain, and giving ourselves that time that we need. And as you were saying, Gary, everybody is different. Everybody needs a different amount of time to go through the healing process and grief. But when we allow ourselves to actually be in touch with that pain, instead of avoiding it or suppressing it, we also give ourselves a chance for true healing.
Yeah.
That is the way that we can evolve through that pain and actually find healing that is guide us and to access our own true inner wisdom that can be a guidance for us during our journey.
I want to say thank you all to our panelists today for continuing the conversation, as I had a completely unexpected glitch on my, well, it wasn't a glitch, the computer completely died, right? But it really ties into some of what I caught as I came back about, heartbreak can feel like the rug getting pulled right out from under you. And how do you respond to that? How do you roll with it? And on the one hand, I want to say, don't judge yourself. I'm just going to jump in here. Don't judge yourself for it happening and the emotions that you have around it, but recognize that that's where the choices that we make about how we're dealing with something start to enter in, so that we can move through it even more quickly. So okay, let's take a moment where I'm going to jump to a video that came to us from Nasrin, and we're going to continue this conversation. Let's hear more from Nasrin.
Heartbreak is a universal human experience, that, though painful, can offer tremendous opportunity for growth, resilience, and spiritual insight. I know that to be true in my own experience. As Rumi has said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Embracing our pain rather than suppressing it or avoiding it allows us to open our hearts to our own inner wisdom. By embracing the lessons learned and fostering self-love, we are capable of deepening our authentic connection in the future. From the ashes of heartbreak can arise a renewed capacity for love.
Nasrin, thank you for sharing that. The part I want to really tease out is you used that Rumi quote about the wound.
That's
Yeah, the wound is where the light enters in.
Mhm.
Did you want to elaborate on that? And
I was talking about, I know this to be true from my own experience because I have gone through 2 heartbreaks. But the difference was that my first heartbreak was I was not willing to deal with it. So I avoided it and I suppressed how I truly felt. I didn't want to feel. So what did I do? I started working more hours. And I did all the avoiding tactic that I could use to not feel my feeling.
Mhm.
And I became depressed, and it took me a year or two to really, I don't think even after that I was 100% over it, but partly because I was not willing to sit with the pain and feel it. And then the second time, the realization that came was that, oh my God, this is the same feeling. I am feeling rejected. I am feeling abandoned. The same feeling I had the very first time. But the fact that I noticed the pattern and I wanted to know like the whole process and I was willing to sit with it. And it took me again a year to go through that journey. But the difference was that at the end of that journey, because I was willing to sit with it and recognize my own part in the breakdown of my relationship that caused that heartbreak and taking responsibility, it helped me to grow spiritually as much as the resilience that I felt within, that I felt this sense of well-being that I can handle this. I can go through this and handle it and come out of it in a really way that when I look back, I wouldn't change a thing because the person who I became after that journey of heartbreak is the person that I loved. So
Right.
yeah. Gary, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I want to add, it's okay to be angry, whether it's a death or you don't have to pretend that it doesn't hurt. Generally, in constellations, we look at anger, like, family anger, is a sense of helplessness. And in one way, we're all helpless to the power of death, and death can be death of a marriage, death of a lover, death of love with somebody, death of compassion with a sibling who drives you crazy, in the family. And we can, in one way, you could look at death as being a humbling aspect of how fragile life is and how we need to really value it. I lost a sister in the 80s, unfortunate with HIV, and it really, our whole family was on a materialist path because we grew up poor. The minute that happened, it's like, that means nothing. It's like we ended up on a spiritual path. Was that part of her incarnation to influence us by dying young? So there's always a gift somewhere. We can't see it through the pain 99% of the time. But once you pass through those stages, whether it's anger, grief, sadness, loss, helplessness, you'll start to see it's like a butterfly coming out of a cocoon.
I thank you for bringing in that higher perspective. I completely agree that's how we overcome it. That's how we we emerge a completely new version of ourselves, just like you were saying, using the butterfly analogy. And I want to share something. This is something that helped me a long time ago. when my dad died. Of course, I love that we're talking about grief from all different types of relationships, right? It could be romantic, family, whatever it is, a pet, could be anything at all.
Absolutely.
This book, this is Neil Donald Walsh's book. I'm just sharing this because this is something that helped me. So this is The Little Soul and the Sun. It's written as a children's parable, but I actually think this is for adults. And it really helps with the shifting of your mindset and having a perspective that can support a person in seeing a bigger picture as to why did this happen? I'm so overcome with the grief, the anger, the whatever it might be. Why did this happen? This is one way. This is one tool that can help you. And we've got more tools. I know all of you have tools. I'm going to highlight now. I want to go to a video from Gary sharing one of his tools. I'm so glad he shared this with us because I was hoping he would. And then we'll come back and talk more about tools to moving through that grief.
Hi, my name is Gary Stuart with the Constellation Healing Institute. I'm so thrilled to be talking with Kim O'Neill on a panel on overcoming heartbreak. You know, it's very simple. We'll talk at length on the show, but if you honor what happened in the past, the level of grief you have is the amount of love you had for the person who departed. It could be a parent, a partner. I know myself from doing constellations for 26 years. So you bow and honor what was in your past and hold them in your heart with unconditional love and their fate to die before you. And then you turn around to your future with the past behind you so you can stand in the present firmly and face your future. It's not to diminish anything that happened before. It's to include it and move forward. My name's Gary Stewart, and I look forward to the panel.
Gary. Okay. So please elaborate on that tool some more because it is so, I know it's so simple, but it's tell us a little more about it.
It always works. So we find, with constellations, we do a lot of family system work, whether it's you were an abused child in your past to especially I'd say about 85%, talk about grief, about 85% of my 16,000 clients, women were abused sexually by a relative. It's the talk about pandemic. That's a real pandemic. But can you leave that in the past? Like if a child could survive that, say a young girl was abused by father, uncle, brother, I leave that with you. I'm not going to carry it one more day because there's still a relative. That's why it gets so complex. But leave it in your past so you don't have to identify as being a victim your whole life from that negative experience, and you leave it with them and you turn away to a future because I see victimization in family system. It's a double bind. Number one, it's inappropriate that it was done to a child. Number two, the child is carrying this adult stuff that it has no business carrying. Then it has to carry it and be quiet in the whole family system for its whole life. I've met young guys who were abused by their father's uncle, and they had to sit with that secret at Thanksgiving next to their father. They were 10 years old. Imagine the talk about overcoming heartbreak, and you have to pretend it didn't happen. So to leave it in the past is like we're not diminishing it, but we're not going to carry it one more second because it takes up as they say, takes up too much real estate in your heart and soul. And you want to be open to receive a better future, one without those kind of people in your life. And it's tricky when it's family members because here they might have given you life and they gave you a huge amount of pain. So it gets really tricky, but that's my specialty in creating healthy boundaries so people can have their sense of agency and personal autonomy in a repressive family system.
What I hear you saying is really doing a physical practice, just literally moving the body, saying some words, moving the body again, that can support the person in reclaiming their power in the situation.
Because it's your intention. You're giving it your attention and intention to break the negative tie and just move forward in a positive. And that can be with anything in life. A jerk you have to work with. I leave your craziness to work with you. I'm just an employee. Boom. And a lot of people have said, my boss was different the next day. So it's those boundaries are very healthy in every part of our life. But more than not, grief is one of the heaviest ones, definitely, because you still love the person as you move forward in life. And that's why I say we really got to respect death, because life and death are almost like counterbalancing forces. We're all alive and life will stop at some point. But I believe death is really a rebirth into the spiritual realm. So when I look at my partner dying pretty young after a 20-year relationship, it's going to sound kind of funny, but who I knew him as is not who his spirit was. He was a spirit incarnated in that flesh that I loved and knew, but now I kind of joke 7 years later, I'm actually in love with Casper. So I have no idea. The cartoon character from the 50s and 60s, those of you who aren't dated like me. But it's a ghost of who he was before he incarnated. So I love the spirit of that person, even though their body is gone. And I have no idea. He showed himself a few times as a ball of light in a couple situations, a lime green neon ball of light. I was taking some pictures and I went to his house in LA, which was sold after all of it. And there was a green ball of light. I didn't see it during the shot and it went up to my cheek and disappeared. So I know, what if the human spirit is like a pearl, a little bigger than a pearl? I would say a marble-sized ball of energy is the entire soul and spirit of who we all are inside these overweight plus-sized bodies.
Well, and so if we're able to take on that higher perspective of there is a bigger meaning, there is a bigger lesson in this, there's a gift to it. I'm not trying to promote this book. It links back to this. This book is all part of that, and also helps us to be able to see that people can, just like Gary is saying, be these bright, beautiful beams of light as they authentically are, and yet in our life experience be something that contributes to so much hurt and heartache and maybe trauma, whatever it may be, for us to have that journey of getting back to the light and knowing more of who we are and our strength and overcoming it. So I don't think it's something we jump to that realization. You got to go through those emotions, but I love what you're saying, because I think that's the bigger end game part of it. So
absolutely.
Rob, what's coming up for you as we've been talking about tools and all this bigger picture and all this stuff? What's coming up for you?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that macro perspective. I think we all need a little bit of that just to kind of ground us and keep us guided in the right direction, because I think a lot of people, when they lose the macro perception, they think they're hopeless, and then a lot of bad stuff can happen out of it. One of the things that are coming up for me actually is just kind of like a micro perspective actually, and it is more or less something that was very fascinating I came across, because it definitely helped me in my journey. And if you guys know of attachment theory, it's a psychological theory about your earliest caregivers and how they affected you and whatnot. The reason why it's so fascinating is because you realize that you do walk around with kind of like your parents, whatever they had instilled on you. And not all of our parents are, they didn't have the right tools or information, to administer the right parenting or what have you. And then so you grow up very, very confused and maybe addicted to certain things. And that's kind of like what I want to hone in on here, is that, love is a drug. All right. You'll hear a lot of people talk about, I'm a serial monogamist, and they're just addicted to relationships. If you just look back at it, what we don't realize is that this is kind of like a codependence that we have built up since birth. And what happens is, when we cry as a little baby, our parents come and soothe us. When we get older, our parents stop soothing us. But what our parents are supposed to do is to give us the tools to help soothe ourselves, not in negative ways. So for example, a lot of people will get addicted to, smoking, or they'll have like addictions to weed or alcohol or some oral fixation. And I think it was Jung who talked about how this is the baby missing the teat from the mom, her nipple. Okay. And so what happens is we self-soothe with other things, and we try to like eat food, or we put things in our mouth or whatever. And we don't realize this addiction is taking over us and our psyche, and the way that we, how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so our brain is wired in a certain way. And this is just going back to the objective reality of heartbreak, is that our brain has chemicals in it, dopamine, norepinephrine, cortisol, all these things. So what happens is when you feel cortisol, your heart pumps cortisol out, your body looks for dopamine. Why? Because dopamine is the feel-good receptor in our brain. And what's interesting is that it, like just like heroin or cocaine or morphine or whatever, that same neural pathway that gets lit up, it's the same neural pathway that we go through for love. So our brain can't even distinguish sometimes the two. And this is kind of like why I like this micro perspective, is because when we compartmentalize our actions and we look at them for face value, as opposed to this, this free flowing thing that just happens to us or whatnot, we start to look at objective reality, and then we start looking at things for what it is. And what happens is that, for a guy, especially like me, who could, be in his head a lot, what happens with our brain as a guy is that we need to find the answer, or else it drives us insane. And so I don't know if this hits with any other guys out there, but like definitely, this is something that you can wrap your head around, with a book or two in a day, and then you can come out, wow, this is the reason why I'm doing all these things. This is the reason why I'm grabbing and reaching for alcohol or drugs, or, going out and distracting myself and doing all these things to bring myself back to baseline. Right. And so, just being aware, I think, is one of the biggest tools that we can use in this journey.
Rob, I love that you brought up attachment theory. We can be raised with, we can develop secure attachments, we can develop insecure attachments. So many people have insecure attachments, not everybody, but so many have the insecure attachments. And I really think that that's where that very first experience of intense heartbreak, I think it all speaks to that. It's that degree of what attachment did you develop as a child? And so just bringing that up, I'm going to give it one of these. I love those video clips. I think when we are feeling the intensity of something, it's. I think that first heartbreak, links back to what happened with our father, our mother, right? So, anybody else want to speak to that?
Just something that Rob said that I think is so important to mention again. We suffer when we are attached to our thoughts and we believe our thoughts. That's why awareness and mindfulness is so important. As Buddha has said, like, suffering has two arrows. One is that the pain that was caused, like say heartbreak, right? We feel the pain. The second arrow is the meaning we make out of what happened, right? That I'm not lovable. Why is it happening to me? And meaning that we give it is causing us the suffering. Pain is universal, heartbreak. But the suffering is how we think about what happened and the meaning we make about it that is causes us to actually suffer because of it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I think part of that can also be very automatic. We don't realize that, this thought that I have, I actually could change it. When we haven't examined a lot of those thoughts and beliefs, like, this thing happened, we just take it as like, that's just, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Right. That's what it is, that it's that truth. And yet we have the power to reformulate that, to shift it into something else. Gary, did you have some thoughts?
Yeah, also on family systems, like where I deal with like ancestors, you find this multi-generational diseases. So is one family having multi-generational cancer, which is in my male line, is that a way of expressing grief? And then the family system knows how to deal with that. Or if it's another disease like diabetes, I was working with the mother of a young 16-year-old, bizarrely, all of them in the same classroom in Sedona got type 1 diabetes at the same time. What is that? They're not blood related. So when we were doing some ancestral work, his grandmother died of pancreatic cancer. So is diabetes in this family system a way to show love? Oh, grandma was sick. Oh, I'm your grandson. I'll show how much I love you. We didn't forget you. I'll have a similar disease of the pancreas. So we see multi-generational, almost like an anniversary effect, because some family systems express love. It sounds kind of crazy, but they may express love through dis-ease. And that's how they can show compassion, and all the maybe good stuff is, oh, somebody's suffering, we have to, shore up, we all have to bond together. And the disease becomes kind of a way to cope with unexpected things in life.
Thank you for bringing that up too, because those kinds of things, there might be someone who's hearing this today going, what? I didn't get this disease because that's how I show love. But I wanted just anybody who's like, really, if you're feeling triggered by it, or you're feeling like, what? Like, I don't understand that. I want to encourage people to journal.
Yeah.
And go within and just start to free write and journal and ask yourself these questions and see what shows up, because it's really fascinating the deeper we go, and even speaking things out loud. I mean, that's can be super powerful for me. So much clarity comes through speaking. Opening ourselves up to something new. It's amazing the answers that can flow through, and you can realize, wow, things are connected. And so I have a choice here. So much power in this conversation already. Thank you to all of you for being here. Of course, we are not done at all, but I do want to recognize that today is World Cancer Day, and today is
wow.
I know, right? Today is February 4th, World Cancer Day. And so we're just going to take a quick moment to recognize that. And of course, also hear about CB4L Chemo Buddies for Life. We'll be right back.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family, and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you to Barbara Beckley for creating that wonderful video. Thank you for that.
Fabulous.
Okay. I want to bring into this conversation identity, the concept of identity, because I think that, again, going back to that scenario of feeling like the rug's been pulled out from under you, whether it be someone dying, whether it be, someone broke up with you and you didn't expect it, something happened to your pet, knock on wood, God forbid. It really can get us to the point where we're so deep in our emotions that we forget who we are, or maybe we never fully even knew who we were to begin with, and that can pose a challenge. So just as I introduce identity into this conversation, what comes up for each of you when you think about that and how it relates to heartbreak?
Well, I can do it quickly. I'm not the negative experiences that I've encountered in life.
Say that again.
I'm not the negative experiences that I've encountered in life. I was a severely battered child by both parents, and there must be something in my soul. So the gifts I got from that, it's fine. And after many years of therapy, it gave me tenacity, fire, strength, courage, fearlessness. So they didn't think that's what they were beating into me, so to speak. And then it doesn't mean I'm that which they saw for whatever crazy reason. But then I look at the grandparents, what they did to my parents, and the great grandparents to the grandparents. You just see it's a trickle down cycle that was their best, which I can't imagine what the worst would be if that's the best. But I'm not those. I had those experiences that gave me hidden gifts of empowerment in the worst possible way, but I'm still standing and living to tell. And I actually feel sorry for them that they didn't have the support that they might have needed when they were abused by grandparents or whatever. And ultimately, everything's a gift. It gives us something we didn't intend on having.
Yeah, I love that. You basically gave everyone an affirmation they can use, right? To start to reclaim their identity and get back to knowing who they are, who they choose to be. And we always start with where we are. So you don't start with all the way on the other end of the spectrum. If right now you're feeling like this is all you're destined for, this is how it is. This is what happens in your life. This is what happens in your family. You have a choice there. You get to start by saying, I'm not that. And so what am I? What do I choose to be? I am. So many words you can put after that to really reclaim and strengthen your sense of identity within yourself. Anybody else have any thoughts about identity and how it links to overcoming heartbreak?
Yeah, I love what you said, Gary. We are not defined by what happened to us. And we need to learn to disidentify and with the story that we have created, that who we are. And who we truly are is a witness of the experience of our life, not the experience itself. Right. And we create that separation, then we can actually see it from different perspectives. And that's what will, welcome Tamara, will give us the courage to do it different.
Thank you, Nasrin. Yes, thank you for adding that. And welcome to the show, Tamara Green. It's good to have you here.
Hello, Gary. I'm so sorry I'm late. I'll tell you later.
It's okay. It's okay. Everything's happening in the flow. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Tamara, take a quick moment and tell everyone who you are, what you do, and where are you located in the world?
Okay.
I'm going to make you big.
I'm Tamara Green. I'm a love mentor trained by Dr. Diana Kirshner. I'm also a psychotherapist, 33 years. I specialize in dating, love, relationships, and I'm in Florida. Just moved here this year.
That's right. I forgot about that. Okay. Yes. Okay. We have not shared Tamara's video yet. Let's hear a little bit more from Tamara and we'll continue the conversation.
Life is pain and happiness, gain and loss. It just is what life does. It does it all, right? But in heartbreak, we oftentimes are assigning meaning. This happened to me because, fill in the blank, I'm not good enough, it never happens for me, blah, 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 right? So can you go within and just be with what comes up, the feelings, and just be willing to experience it? This feels awful, but I'm willing to experience it. This feels scary, and I'm willing to experience it. That helps to create a more neutral mind, especially when you're in the practice of that. So try it.
Thank you for that, Tamara. I love that. And that definitely, of course, flows with everything we've been talking about today. Wonderful, wonderful. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, it's jumping off of your question, actually, the identity that we operate from. I'm really loving what everybody else is saying about it too. And we're not born, fear-based. We're not born thinking to ourselves that, I'm not good enough. We're just not. We're indoctrinated to believe that, but that is just not who we are. We are love, light, pure potential, happiness, joy. It's all right there. So it's about not more and more not operating from this indoctrinated self filled with doubt and fear. But realizing that our true self is one that recognizes that we are pure potential, and guess what? God and the whole entire universe has our back.
Thank you for saying that. So that leads right into, I want to, we're nearing the end of today's show, and I want to make sure we absolutely touch on self-love. Taking time to reclaim your identity or re-figure out who you are. And, after heartbreak is an aspect of self-love, choosing to love yourself, appreciate who you are, your identity. What else comes up for our panelists when we think of self-love and as part of the process of healing?
I'd love to answer.
I'll talk a little bit about self-love here, just a little bit. And it's just piggybacking off of kind of what we've been talking about here. Tamara, I think that was a really great point that you brought up, because, how we talk to ourselves is one of the biggest things. And I just want to share stories that one of my mentors, he brought an Olympic gold medal runner, and he had failed his 2 previous attempts. And Olympics only come around every 4 years, so his time was waning. Okay, so he failed the first 4. He failed the first one. He failed the second one. And he's just, I just can't win gold. I don't know what's going on. He had met another coach out in Europe, and that coach was like, I want to hear your thoughts. Like, what are you telling yourself after you miss a hurdle or something like that? And he's like, oh, you're such a piece of whatever. You're a failure, this and that. What he did was he said, look, the difference between you and the gold medalist is that when the gold medalist, botches the hurdle or whatever, he's just saying to himself, yo, you got this next time. It's all good. Don't worry. This is just a little bump in the road. You're going to get it next time. And I think that right there is the self-love that we need to give ourselves, is that a lot of people have their voices of their parents, let's say, or other people like past lovers saying that you're this, you're that. And we take that and to our grave. And I think we have to eliminate some of the things that, I do understand that words cut deep, words still hurt. But, at the end of the day, is it serving you? No. Is it, helping you on your self-love journey? No. So it's about talking to yourself and healing the words that you hear over and over in your head. So
love that. Thank you, Rob. And Gary, I know you had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, well, it's be kind to yourself. If you really look at what he was saying, we're cruel to ourselves. We're actually crueler to ourselves than anyone could be in the world. And if we're kind to ourselves and have self-compassion for ourselves going through this time of suffering, it will be a lot easier. So I would say be kind to yourself when you're in a place of emotional duress, which is self-compassion.
Absolutely. Tamara. Yeah.
So I love what Rob and Gary said, and you can only allow as much love in as you love yourself. You literally set the bar on how much you allow in. So,
yeah. Okay.
I'm getting crumbs. Well, guess what? You're probably giving yourself some crumbs here.
Right.
And so self-love, I say this all the time to my clients. It's time to date you and treat yourself as if you want to be treated. Go for it.
Okay, Tamara, that was awesome, right? The love we give is the love we receive. So if we're not giving ourselves much, we're probably not receiving much. This deserves this. Yeah. Hallelujah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So you're walking the journey of overcoming heartbreak, looking at it, as Rob was saying earlier, from that micro perspective, what's going on? What am I feeling? And then walking your way through it, right? This is what I'm feeling, and this is what I choose to move into. This is who I choose to become. Looking at how am I giving myself that love? And you're working your way up into that space where you can start to see that bigger picture, get to that being the butterfly, moving through the stages of the cocoon, going inward, maybe kind of closed off from things as you process and move through things, giving yourself that space and time for that. And you come out on the other end, that beautiful butterfly. And so we just have a few minutes left before we have to wind down the show, but I want to just touch on that rebirth experience. For the person who's at the other end of the journey, just in the depths of the darkness and the heartbreak, the dark night of the soul experience, whatever it might be that you're feeling, you might be thinking there is no rebirth.
Right.
If there is, we're here to tell you there is. And so what would our panelists like to add on that note? Gary.
It's temporary. I know it's hard to believe that, but if you really look at, like the wounds I had in my childhood, so you add 50 years, 60 years to that equation. Yeah, it was a negative experience, but it's actually temporary in the bigger scheme of things. And my ex-mother-in-law, she said her famous words at 97, anything negative, you know what her answer was? At 97, she was born like turn of the century. This too shall pass.
Yes.
When you look at the wisdom in that simple statement that most of us have heard, it's a bump in the road, and it will pass with time and self-compassion. And especially today, looking at the world every day, they're advertising grief and insanity. And can we just look at the world and say, this too shall pass, and have compassion for the suffering in the world?
Absolutely. Yeah. Tamara.
Yeah, I love it, Gary. And Joel Osteen says every setback is a setup for a comeback. It's so true. And the other thing I want to say for those really suffering from heartbreak, because it's literally, you may have said this already, it's a chemical deprivation going on in your mind or in your brain. And, literally you are going through a withdrawal, like dopamine withdrawal. Seriously, it's no joke. So get out there and, I don't know, tap your body, move your body, go outside, get some exercise. It really, really helps. It really helps to get out there and get those happy hormones going.
Yes. No, thank you. That was worth we did mention some of that earlier. Rob did. Thank you for touching on it again, though, because it is beneficial. I'm gonna encourage my panelists to right now to start to collect your final thoughts on today's conversation. We're just going to take a moment to really think about self-love through another little beautiful video that our Barbara Beckley created. So we'll be right back with final thoughts. Yeah, you do deserve love in all forms. Absolutely. I want to go around and hear what, I came up with a new question yesterday of what was fabulous about this conversation, just incorporating that word fabulous. And so I'm going to start with Gary, I'm going to start with you. What was fabulous about today's conversation?
Just the depth of what we all touched and how sincere we are. And it's, really everything is about love. Some of the trite kind of things that there's only love or fear, but it really is true, because if we're in fear, there's lack of love there. So we can love life in its full expression, which are the ups, the downs, the bumps, the this and that, and just still love ourselves while we go through that experience, and everyone else, realizing that's the best they could do. Having compassion for who you perceive your enemy is. I think Dalai Lama says the best. He said every morning he wakes up and he prays for the Chinese. Kind of interesting, you know what I mean, with a spiritual leader. It's like, think of how the enemy, the alleged enemy, is suffering.
Right.
It's not, it may not be our place to heal them or that, but just hold that higher vibration of somehow in this mess of life, it all makes sense in some reality. So I'll just hold it in unconditional love.
Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. I'm going to move right down. Nasrin, what was fabulous about today's conversation?
I think the message that we all share, that heartbreak is not just an end, it is a doorway to transformation. And by facing our pain and the courage and openness that we all have with our inner wisdom, we can really pave the way for personal growth and self-love and self-discovery.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Tamara, how about you? I'm so glad you were able to join us. What are your thoughts?
Don't do it alone. Please don't do it alone. It's so hard to do this love thing. I mean, you can be, really successful in business or, other areas of your life. But when it comes to love, it's that's the one, the romantic relationship is the one that replicates, the parent-child relationship the most. That's where we're trying to heal our childhood wounds. So this is deep, brainstem stuff, like deep stuff. So don't do it alone. Get help. Talk to your friends. There's so much stuff out there. Just don't do it alone, please.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Rob, what about you? What was fabulous about today's conversation for you?
I think everything that we touched upon was amazing. It was fabulous. I think we all had our own tumultuous past that brought these words out today, and I thank everyone for going on that healing journey themselves and being able to help others. I think that really is the true mark of a human being right there. But one thing that I think about a lot, and I don't know if it was really mentioned here, is that grief is stages. There's 5 stages of grief. How I look at it is a circle. Sometimes we go back into other areas and we go back into depression or bargaining, or we're just in denial again or whatever. But one of the things I want to mention about that is the angry and bitterness, because in relationships, when you break up with somebody, there is somebody else that had something to do with it, but you also were a common denominator to that point. But what happens is, we get bitter, and bitterness is like drinking poison and wishing the other person to die. And what happens is, in our healing journey, when we're bitter,
Rob, I'm gonna have to cut you off in a moment because we have to close out.
No problem. When we're bitter, we can't heal, and I think that's where we draw the line on our anger and our bitterness. So that's all I need to say.
Thank you for adding that. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today. Tamara, I'm so glad you're able to join us. And all of you shared so much wisdom. We touched on so many different facets. This could be like 5 shows. It could be 10 shows. We could talk about all this stuff. But I just want to thank everyone. And I want to highlight one of our audience comments today. We have Christopher with us today saying, when you feel a door is closing in on your heart, it is actually, let's put it back up there. Let's keep that comment up. It is actually the door opening the other way towards a different direction you didn't notice before. And I think that's an excellent way to close out today's show. Yes. Thank you again for everyone. Let us know in the chat what you are taking away from today's conversation. And remember to love yourself. We'll see you next time.
I want to say thank you for joining us today and welcome you back next Sunday as we once again are joined by a panel of subject matter experts that will explore and focus in on our fabulous lives. Until next Sunday.